Well, I had a pretty good season. 68. That was quite a year. You hear people talk about being in a zone, sometimes for a game or so, but I was in a zone pretty much the entire year. I felt like I could do pretty much what I wanted to. I had outstanding control, probably the best of my entire career in that 1 year. And it was just fun. It was fun to go out there because I felt, and of course I felt like that all the time, but I felt like the other team didn't want to see me. And that's a good feeling.
What was your reaction when you heard they were lowering the mountain the next year?
Oh, I was pissed. I still am, as a matter of fact. You work hard to perfect your trade, and not just me, but the pitchers. There were several pitchers that had outstanding years that year, and we had just been getting better and better and better every year. Then all of a sudden, someone decides that they didn't like that, and they want to make it a little easier for the hitters. So we're going to do something about it. And I don't think that was right. It turned out okay, but no, I thought that was kind of unfair. Why punish us because we were good at what we did? And that's the way it seemed to me. Yes.
Well, I'll have plenty of baseball questions for you in a minute.
Funny?
I'd kind of like to hear about your time you spent with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh. Well, it was fun. I enjoyed playing basketball. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, though. And I'll tell you why. The way I ended up playing with the Globetrotters, they were playing the College All-Stars, a series, I guess, starting at the beginning of the season, basketball season. And they were traveling all over the country playing real basketball. And they came into Omaha, and I was at Creighton University at the time, and they asked me if I would play with the College All-Stars against the Trotters. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to do that. And I didn't play the entire game until sometime in the fourth quarter. And I scored 14 points, and we ended up beating the Trotters by 2 points that night. And that's when the Trotters asked me if I would play with them. I said, well, I'm going to try to finish the school thing, and then I would. And then when I got with the team, and we weren't playing real basketball, we were playing the Philadelphia somebody or another, and they traveled with us, and everything we did, they just stood and watched, and it wasn't the same kind of basketball I thought we were going to play. So they tricked me.
Bob, what's your favorite memory of playing baseball?
Favorite memory? Well, that's tough to have one memory. I guess the season he asked me about, 68. I mean, that was just fun. I had at the time, it's when Sammy Davis was doing that thing. Here comes the judge, and he was in the robe, and I had gotten one of his pictures with this robe on, and I took it, cut it out, and I hung it up over my locker. Here comes the judge. And I felt like that. And it was just, everything was fun. When you have a year like that, it is fun. When years aren't too good, then it's not that much fun. It turns into work.
Bob, when people make comparisons from this era to players who played in your day and pitched in your day, are you comfortable with those comparisons? Do you think they're fair, or do you think the players from your era would dominate now just as they did back then?
Yeah, I never did like that comparison stuff. There's no way you can come up with a right answer to that. Do I think I could play today? Yes. Do I think I'd be pretty good today? Yes. Do I think some of those guys could have played back then? Yes. Would they be pretty good? Yes. So I don't know how you judge which era was the better. And as an older person, you like to think ours was the best, but I don't necessarily think that. I think they have more talent today than they did back when I played, but they also have diluted it with the number of players that they sent out there, and certainly they have guys that play today that would have been stars back then, and vice versa. So I don't really know how you would compare them. I don't know how you would do that.
Didn't you pitch in a 4-man rotation?
I pitched in a 5-man. The Cardinals have always had a 5-man rotation. And it did come a time when they had a 4-man rotation. When we get to the end of the season and you got to win, and they would take one person out, especially if you had some off days, and go with a 4-man rotation. But basically, we had 5.
How would you handle pitching in a situational era where, they'll bring in a lefty just to pitch to one batter? Because you're known for your durability and being able to go all 9 innings.
Well, back when I played, you guys would write a bad story about me if I didn't pitch 9 innings. I pitched 7 innings. Oh, this guy can't pitch the whole game, And it was a different attitude back then than it is today. And we had situational type things. We'd bring a left-hander in there just to get a left-hander out, but basically the starter would pitch 5, 6. I mean, not 5. Yeah, we had really a lot of quality starts, whatever that is. They expected us to finish the ball game, and most of the time we did. At least we got up into the 7th and 8th inning, and that's giving your team a pretty good chance to win.
Maybe to piggyback onto that question, what do you make of pitch counts and the philosophy that many pitchers or many teams have, 120 are gone? Is that bad for the game? Is it helping pitchers at all? Or?
Oh, I don't know what's bad for the game or what's good. My average was about 130 for a complete ball game, and that's because when you strike out a lot of guys, you throw a lot of pitches. But they always did have a count. It's just that they didn't take you out when you got to a certain number. They took you out when you start getting beat up. I had one game where I threw 192 pitches, but I pitched 14 innings. So, and then I pitched three games in a row where I pitched 14, 12, and 10 innings, extra innings. Well, they don't do that today, and it's not the pitcher's fault. That's just the way they play the game. I think the medical people tell them that it's not good for them, and I don't know how they know that, but I think that's part of the problem. And then you have an agent that doesn't want you to get hurt because he's writing checks on your name. So I think all of those things have a lot to do with taking a little bit better care of the pitchers than they used to.
Pitchers hampered today because they're not allowed to come inside as much as they did.
Oh, you're definitely hampered because you can't come inside. What hitters like to do is get their arms out. Big hitters, not the little guys. The little guys keep their hands inside, and they hit. The big guys like to get their arm out, and that's the only way they can hit that ball really hard, unless you take those things they're taking. I don't know, but that stuff enhancers. You have to come inside. And the reason you come inside is to keep them from leaning over the plate. And when they lean over the plate, the outside part of the plate is the middle of the plate. And you don't want that. You do want some way to get them out. And the only way you can keep them from doing that is to come inside. Well, they don't allow that so much anymore, and which I think is a mistake because when you're not really afraid of the ball inside, or you're not aware of the ball inside, sometimes you can get hit pretty hard, and that won't be the pitcher's fault, but they'll blame the pitcher for it.
What are the Cardinals doing differently? Because you always see, especially in minor league teams, that they keep pumping out, it's one guy after the next, and with pitchers too, that they get into the major leagues and they're doing so well. What is it about the Cardinal way that you've seen? Well,
the Cardinal way is something different than what you're talking about. The scouts evidently are doing some pretty good job with signing guys, but the Cardinal way to me is keeping us older guys around. We go to spring training. There's 5 or 6 of us that go to spring training, and we're available to talk to the guys whenever they want to talk to you. They want to go out and have a cocktail afterwards and have a drink with you and talk some things. We don't necessarily get out on the field and try to teach them how to pitch because they have plenty of guys to do that. But we're available for them, and that's what the Cardinals do better than anybody else. They keep the older guys around, experienced guys, the guys that have been successful, and I think that really influences a lot of the younger players they see us around. We were there for opening day, and we're there entire spring training. And sometimes they actually ask you questions and what have you when you're in the dugout. We'll go in before the game, sit in the dugout during the game, and sit there for 4 or 5 innings. And every once in a while, somebody will come up and ask you how you do this or how you do that. And I think that's really helpful.
You were a pretty good hitter.
I was a damn good hitter.
24 home runs, was it?
24, 26.
26, okay.
Yeah, well, I had 2 in the World Series, so
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of the designated hitter rule?
stinks. I don't like it. And you're not going to find many pitchers that were in the National League that are going to like it because they called me a strikeout pitcher, and the guys I struck out with 7, 8, and 9. I struck them out twice. That's 6. And now you have 7, 8, and then you have a guy that could be capable of hitting home runs, or a guy's capable of leading off, and you don't have the same type of lineup, and so you have to do a little different things pitching than you do with a regular ball club. You have that extra guy there, and then they're never going to get rid of that anyway because the Baseball Players Association is not going to allow it. There's 30-some teams, and that means there's 30-some jobs that they wouldn't have. They're not going to allow that. So what they'll probably do, instead of getting rid of the designated hitter, they might end up having one in the National League, and then I'm going to quit.
Cards like to bat their pitchers 8th. Would you have lobbied to bat a little higher even?
Me? I should have. I should have been batting 7th or 8th. I don't know. There's all kinds of theories that this works and this doesn't work. And if you get a base hit or you get a hit in a situation, it works. And then when you don't, it doesn't. So you really can't reinvent the game, I don't think. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
You talked about still hanging around the team, going to spring training and all that.
I'm not hanging around.
Maybe not hanging around, but being there at spring training.
That's a bad word.
Being available.
Make me feel like I'm hanging
I
around.
misspoke. My apologies.
No, the reason I say that, somebody said that the other day, and I jumped all over him. I'm not a hanger-oner.
Give us your assessment of Mike Matheny, and how much time have you had with him at all since he's become manager?
I haven't had too much time at all. And, it's easy to jump on a bandwagon when your team's winning. And then when they don't win, the same ones that jump on that bandwagon are going to say this guy stinks. And that's the way fans are. You do a good job, and that's my. I'm like that myself. I pull for the team when they win, and when they don't win, I call Blue and I tell them those guys that you were involved with stink. So it's easy. Matheny's doing a good job. Let's put it this way: he knows the game, and if you know the game, and you have guys that can play, and he certainly has some guys that can play, especially guys that can pitch. You can be a good manager. Because the worst thing in the world for a manager to do, I think, is overmanage. Well, he doesn't overmanage. He doesn't have to. You got to make a move here and there, and he knows what those moves are. And if you have a good enough team that you can allow them to play, you're going to be a good manager.
You mentioned 2 homers in the World Series. Is there one World Series that stands out over one of the other ones for you?
The first one you're in. It was against the almighty Yankees, and we ended up beating them. And I can remember sometime in, I guess, December, maybe November, after the series was over, and I was thinking about the series, and I was thinking, we beat the best team in the world. So does that mean we're the best team in the world? And those are the thoughts that went through my mind. I don't think anything I did would ever replace that first World Series that we won. It was great.
1968 World Series.
68.
Jim Northrup hits a triple. Did you think?
You got a newspaper or something you're reading? He hits a triple.
Hits a triple. Did
Uh-huh.
you think it was catchable?
Do I think it was catchable?
Did you think the Curt Flood was going to get to it?
Anytime a ball's hit, I think Curt's going to get to it. I had that much confidence in him. And it was just one of those things. I don't know. I guess it wasn't meant for us to win. That's the only thing I can come up with, because I would put him out there any day.
You alluded a short time ago about perhaps some substances that players in today's game have been known to take.
Well, this is stuff I read about that you've been writing about all these years.
Yeah. What do you make of that? Has that significantly tainted the game, or has it in any way in your view?
Oh, I don't know that it's really tainted the game. You know, if you probably go back and check, guys have been cheating ever since baseball's been baseball, one way or another. And you talk about the old White Sox scandal or whatever it was. The guys have just been cheating, and they throw spitballs, and if you can get an edge, you get an edge. Now, this is something that was unacceptable as far as our society is concerned. So it got so much press that it got probably bigger than it should have been. It's something that's illegal as far as our country is concerned, and I think that's probably the biggest problem. But I'm just glad that I didn't have to make that decision on whether to do it or not, because I'd been one of those guys you were right about. Probably would have done it. I don't know. I like to think I wouldn't have, but I don't know if I'm that strong. If I thought somebody was getting an edge on me and I found a way that I could get it back, maybe I would. Don't know. I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision.
Reference made earlier to Curt Flood. Should he be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. I don't know really what it takes.
Even for his impact off the field.
I'm sorry?
Perhaps for his impact off the field more so than on?
Well, he was a pretty good player on the field. I just really don't know. Some guys get in the Hall of Fame for being a defensive player. Some get in for being an offensive player. Should you get in for leading the movement that Curt did? Maybe. I couldn't really say. Is he a good enough ball player to be in there? Yeah, he's a better ball player than some guys that are in there. But I just don't know how to tell you that. Should he be in there? Should he not be in there? I can't tell you who should be in there. Glad they selected me. And I think what helps you a lot if you get into a couple of World Series, 2 or 3 World Series, and you do well, I think that really helps you get in.
Who was the toughest hitter you ever had to face?
Whew. Oh, let's see. Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and Eddie Matthews and Willie Stargell and Billy Williams. There's a bunch of them. They were tough. And you had to not only get them out, you had to pitch smart. There are times where one of those guys can't come up and they could beat you a ball game. Then you would have to pitch around them or try to do something to keep them from knocking your brains out. And I did that pretty well. I think Billy Williams probably hit more home runs off of me than anybody else, but I don't think any of them were ones that beat me. He hit them when there was nobody on there. The other times I pitched to somebody else, maybe Ernie Banks or Ron Santo or somebody. You don't let your ego get in the way. Hank Aaron was just horrible. Every time there was somebody on second base, he seemed like he would just take the guy who was supposed to hit and he'd move him, and he'd come up and hit. So, why is he hitting right now? So you had to pitch around. I had Joe Adcock hitting behind him. I'd rather face Joe Adcock any day. So you just had to use your head a little bit. The guys that hit me best were not the big, strong hitters, the guys with all of the names and things. They were little guys, usually a left-hander, because a left-hander hit me better than right-handers. Guys that took a lot of pitches, try to get deep into the count, make you throw the ball right down the middle. When you throw the ball over the middle plate, you're not going to strike guys out too much. And there's a better chance of them getting a hit than not. So they probably did more damage than anybody else off of me.
Tim McCarver told a story about coming out to talk to you on the mound.
That's all lies.
Always.
I had a lot of fun with Tim. He's, volatile personality, and I would make him mad a lot. He'd come out there and ask, "What do you want? What do you want?" I got a man up first. I know. I put him there. You're not going to throw him out anyway. Just things like that that would just really tick him off. He'd storm back behind the plate. One time, he was give me the pitch out. I think Johnny King was managing, and he just gave me the pitch out, and I shook him off. And he gave it to me again, I shook him off. And he gave it to me a third time, I shook him off. And he called timeout, he ran out. Johnny wants me to throw, he wants a pitch out. He thinks he's going. And I said, if he runs, you're not going to throw him out anyway. And so it's just going to be a wasted pitch. Oh, he called me a couple of names. But I had a lot of fun with him. And he was I really loved to pitch to him because he always called a really good ball game. He, first inning on, he pretty much had you all figured out. And it was really easy to pitch to a guy who's thinking along with you rather than a guy who you got to really shake off a lot. That makes it tough. That makes it tough out there.
Anything else for Mr. Gibson?
One other question about one of my, I write for a newspaper, one of our readers asked me to ask about an old timers game where you threw at Reggie Jackson.
That's not true. I probably faced Reggie Jackson one time in an old timers game. I didn't have time to throw at somebody in an old timers
Urban
game.
legend.
Oh yeah, those stories get good, and sometimes I even enjoy listening to them. But most of the time I don't. But no, I never threw Reggie Jackson. I had no reason to. An old timers game. I'll tell you what I did do. There's a guy. I'm trying to think of his name. He was a first baseman and outfielder for the Philadelphia Phillies, a left-handed guy, hitter. He ended up being a broadcaster.
Dick Allen?
No. First of all, Dick Allen was a right-hander. And this guy was left-hander. And he ended up being a broadcaster for Cleveland or somebody. And I was at an old-timers game. They would have a guy come in, not just me, but somebody come in and promote the old-timers game for that weekend. And I was there, and he hit a home run off of me to beat me a ball game in Philadelphia one year. And he wasn't the type of hitter that was going to hit home runs. And I saw him walking across the field before the game, and I picked the ball up and threw it and hit him. He turned and looked at me, and I shook my finger at him, and he went, "Yeah, I know."
Anything else? All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Gibson. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Gibson. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Gibson. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Gibson. Appreciate it.